Hi guys. The one thing you need to know about typography is that some of the things that we're going to learn in this semester, you will remember for the rest of your life, unless you happen to drop out of design, and then in that case, you'll probably just want to forget it. But graphic design is really about communicating a message for a client. So everything we do is going to have some level of typography to it. Really good type integrates into a design in a seamless way and enhances the design. I'm going to show you a few examples and what type is. It can be as simple as a paragraph on a page. It can be the star of the design. It can be secondary. Um, and so, yeah, I'm going to show you a few examples. These are a set of posters I did last year for design thinkers in Vancouver, and these were portraits of three famous Canadian designers from the 60s and 70s. So we did these illustrations, and then we overlaid their name in type in gold metallic ink and made it somewhat transparency so you could see the images through the type. So in this case, this is a great example of how type and image can work together to create something very unique and interesting. And then as well, if you look at the rest of the posters, there are these quotes down below, and then a write-up about each of the designers. And up at the top, there's the name of the designers. And look at some of the secondary text in here. I'll zoom in a little bit. So if you look up at the top here, and it's a little bit blurry because it's online, but you see Heather Cooper, Canadian design icons, the year that she really became famous, and then the organization she worked with. And you can see little details like these circles around the year and these lines. These are some of the elements that you'll learn, and it's the things that will take what could be just a fairly plain design to something that's very sophisticated, sort of interesting, and yeah, this is where we start. So I'm going to take you through a few more. So I showed you this last week. This is an example of something that is really driven by type, right? So this is a book on inspiring young people to vote, and what the organization does, and it talks about the steps that Apathy is Boring is doing to reach young people. So it really is a heavy document with text, and this is probably as difficult of a challenge as you will get when it comes to working with type. It's working with multiple layers of type. So here you have a chapter heading, political participation rather. You have an introduction, you have body copy, so on both sides, and another sort of pull quote here, and a series of numbers and facts. And then you have elements like the page numbers, the folios up at the top. All of these things um, are challenging, and this is the type of layout that if you can do this level of layout consistently, then you can pretty much do anything when it comes to type, because there's so many levels to this that have to work together. So yeah, so this is one of the harder types of things you can do. But within design itself, there's lots of opportunity to do more simple types of layouts. So I think I showed you guys this mixtape for a desert island. These were a series of posters that were done. So really all it had to do was have the track number, the name of the the name of the book, and then right up here. So this is a little bit more edgy, less sort of standard. Here's another one of the posters that we did. So you sort of see there's when you look at this, what I want you to look at is how there's like these subtle sort of little headers up here that talk about who the writer was, who the singer was. So this is a level of hierarchy. So you're going to hear hierarchy a lot in design, and this is a great example of sort of starting with the headline, the track number, the write up. The author. So these are all different layers of hierarchy, starting from most important to least important. Um, some of you asked me about web design on Friday. Same thing. Type design in web design is less critical, but it is still super important. So this was an online magazine I did for Spark, and so same thing. You'll see that the headline is integrated with this image, and then the type overlaps, and the hierarchy. I see this little subhead here, issue one, directions for the future. It's those type of little subtle details in type that will take that you'll be able to look at this and go, oh, this isn't just a boring design. It's somebody that's taken the time to figure out, the hierarchy, how the design is going to work online or in print. Yeah, and then I talked to you a little bit about working on logos. So these are a couple corporate logos that I did. So Royal Columbian Hospital, the Mill Bay Marine Group, and you sort of see very different type of how different way of type working. It's type working with a letter form that works as a set and creates a logo. So Mill Bay Marine Group, you can subtly see Mill Bay Marine is the important thing, so we make that a little bit bolder, and it gets this flow of Mill Bay Marine Group, and it works as it works taking the second line and making it bolder. On this one, Royal Columbian is bigger than the Hospital Foundation because we want Royal Columbian to stand out. So it's those types of it's the type of subtlety that you'll start to understand as the more you design. This was a series of posters for SFU, so from deep sea to dunk. So this is a poster that is up in SFU. So it has a need for this headline to be much bigger than everything else on the page. So you see again, hierarchy wise, the headline is first, the secondary headline, and then the write up. And then you'll see a set of logos. There's a website, and then the poster itself is a layer of color, images, and type. Uh, I think I showed you that, and I've showed you a couple of these. So type can also be very illustrative. So this is a series of skateboards that just are completely the type is completely hand rendered, which, is actually quite beautiful when you look at it. So type can be art in itself. Um, this is a poster where there's paragraphs of type, but there's also these letter forms that layer over top of the color, and you can see through the letter forms to the actual type. And again, the type itself becomes the artwork. And again, here's some hand rendered type where somebody has created these letters just using lines and ovals. And then type as the star on a page, so a typographic poster. So in this type class, we will be going over, we will do projects like this where type does become the star. I wanted to put this one in. This is just a really cool old sign that has some dimensional type. It's made to look like it's vintage, but it's actually quite new, and it has textures on it. So within typography, there's so many things. Everything in graphic design is typography. So here's a beautiful looking typographic newspaper with some images that have been faded back. So yeah, I think you're gonna love typography by the time you're finished this class, I hope, or maybe not. But it is something that we have to learn to become good designers. So one of the things I'm going to go through with you is some terminology, and some of the terminology we're going to go over. you are going to have to know, and I am going to quiz you on it. In fact, I'm going to quiz you on it next week. So the first one I want you to start to learn about are the type classifications. So when I talk about type and letter forms, there's certain classifications that you have to know about. So the first one is a serif typeface. So serif simply, when you look at it, this word old style, the serif are these sort of little feet that stick out on a serif font. So on the L, you can see down here, on the ends of the S's and the bottom of the D, on the bottom of the L. Serif it simply has these little feet on the end of it. And I guess that's not the best way to put it, but that's a good way to sort of remember it. Now, within serif, there's a lot of subcategories. So remember, serif are the things on the end of the letter forms. Sometimes you will hear the word slab serif. So all that means is it's a certain serif typeface, but instead of having those sort of rounded feet on the end, a, a slab serif basically looks like it has a block. It looks like it has blocks attached to the ends of the letter. So slab serif. Grotesque, it has minimal contrast on the stroke. So if you look at this S, it almost looks the same thickness all the way through it. And if you look at the G here, it has some of the curves. Older versions have some curves that are more square. So we won't go into too much about grotesque, other than you need to know that it is a certain type of sans serif. Script. You won't use a lot of script in graphic design unless you're doing a really cheesy wedding invitation, or unless you're doing something that's kind of has like a vintage feel to it. A script simply means it has the fluid strokes of handwriting, and it can be formal to casual, and it's really it's a type of display font, but it is we call it script. Black letters. You probably look at this and go, "Oh, I've seen something that looks like this." Um, Black letter is really based on handwritten calligraphy. So a lot of people also call it like Old English fonts and things like that. So you rarely use it, but you need to know the classification. This is a monospaced sans serif. So when I say sans serif, that means it's lacking serif. So you'll see all of these, the bottom of the letters, they do not have the little feet that I mentioned to you. A monospaced sans serif has the exact same space between every letter, which is not great for typesetting, but it can be good for things like headlines and things like that. A display font. Display font basically means something that you might use in a store. That's where it traditionally, why it was named that. You wouldn't use it in a sentence. You would probably use it for one word. A display font is usually it can be quite garish. It can be really out there looking. It's kind of a novelty font. Um, I should show you. I didn't actually put just a straight serif in here, but let's see. Oh, yeah, I did. So I did have the grotesque one. So if you look at the top of the page here, the GDMA 1100 type design, this is an example of two different sans serifs. So again, you'll see that there's no serifs on the end of the letters. It's quite clean. Sans serifs tend to look a little bit more modern than serifs, and serifs are a little bit more traditional. So those are some of the basic type classifications. We'll go over some more in class as well.